Good morning and a good Erev Shabbos as we prep for another Shabbos. It might be getting cold outside and it might be rainy outside, but inside it's warm and it's a time to celebrate Shabbos, beautiful families, and of course a beautiful community. So this week's Torah portion, we read about the first match ever made. We read about the story. Sarah passes away, and Abraham wants to find a match for his son Isaac, who's nearing 40 years old. And what does he do? He sends his valet, Eliezer, and he says, go to my birthplace, to the home of my family where Sarah and I come from, and find a match for my son Isaac. He has to get married, he has to build a family, the future of the Jewish people. And he tells him like this. He says to him, and he reminds him, that when I was in Haran, when I was in Mesopotamia, where he's sending him now to find a match, he says God was only the God of the heaven, Elokei Hashemayim. But now, God is the God of heaven and earth. Because I have taught the world to believe in one God, the story of monotheism. And the question, of course, is what's the connection between telling Eliezer to go find a match for his son and talking about God being the God of the heaven and later him teaching the people about it? And the rabbi says something remarkable. You see, Eliezer was troubled. From one side, Abraham says, I want you to find a match for my son, specifically from Haran. I don't want one of the Canaanites here living in Israel. And yet, at the same point, when Eliezer says to him, hey, what happens if the woman doesn't want to go with us? What does Abraham say? No, don't bring my son there. She'll come with you. So Eliezer doesn't understand. Make up your mind. If the place to get a woman from is Haran, what big deal is it if Isaac ends up going there? And the rabbi said that's why Abraham was explaining him about how he taught the people to believe in God. You see, Abraham wanted a match for his son who had the DNA, who had the characteristics that him and his wife had, of kindness, of empathy, of morality. And that in Canaan was not there. In Israel at that point, the people didn't have those tendencies, that nature. And he said, I want a wife that will have the nature that we are used to, the DNA, the genetics of Abraham and Sarah, of kindness, of empathy, of morality, and so on. But I don't want my son to go there. You know why? Because when I left Mesopotamia, it was just then that I found God, and God revealed himself to me and sent me my message. And I came to Israel, and I taught the people in Israel to believe in God. Yes, they don't have the nature I need, but they have the nurture. They have faith in God. In Mesopotamia, where Rebecca was from, they might have had the character, but they were still worshiping idols. And what Abraham was telling Eliezer is that it's critical for my son to both have a woman who's going to have deep character of empathy and kindness and care, because that's how we build a Jewish nation. But I also need an environment that's going to be an environment not of idolatry, but an environment of faith. It's not enough to have the character. It's also about where you grow up. And many times when we look for a shidduch for someone, we say, hey, what kind of person is she? Where is she from? But we also forget where we're going to live together. Where is our environment? Who are our neighbors going to be? What's the community we're going to be in? And what Abraham teaches us with the first shidduch is that you need both. You need nurture and you need nature. You know, years ago, there was this documentary that came out, which is called Three Identical Strangers. It was about these three identical triplets that were born, I think, in 1961, and their parents were divorced or someone had passed on, and they were brought to a Jewish agency, which separated them in order to see and test how they would do in different homes, having the same nature but not the same nurture. And these kids, unbeknownst to them, were put up for adoption in different homes and adopted by parents not knowing that they had an identical, not just twin, but triplet. And then in 1980 they met. Their names were Edward Gallant and David Kellerman and Robert Schumann. And they met And at the beginning, all was amazing. They realized they have the same curly hair, the same styles and characteristics. The nature, came to be. But then, as time went on, they realized that although they all came with the same DNA and the same genetics, one grew up in an affluent home, one in a middle-class home, one in a poor home, one with parents that were more bitter and angry and didn't get along, and it showed in these young men. Because as much as they tried to lean on the nature only, on what connected them, they were still different. So they were three identical by nature, but strangers by nurture. And that's really the message of the portion. Everyone needs to find the shidduch, and we pray for those that need it. But it's, remember, in life, it's not enough to have nature, you need nurture. And nurture without nature won't get you too far, because on the surface, you might change. But when a person has a tendency to things that are not good, it's never a good ending. Have a Shabbat Shalom, and may we all be blessed with a beautiful Shabbat.